Hello again. Now, trade union Popcru wants the killing of police officers to be considered treasonous. 2 officers in the Western Cape and in KwaZulu-Natal were killed at the weekend. In KwaZulu-Natal, Officer Roger Mavundla, his wife and 2 children were gunned down in Port Edward, while Captain Spumeza Lusasa was stabbed to death in Cape Town. Speaking on behalf of Popcru is Richard Mamabolo, who's joining us now for more on this worrying trend. Good afternoon, Mr. Mamabolo. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. It is indeed a very big tragedy. The men and women in blue uniform apparently being targeted and killed. Your overriding reaction to these recent killings as Popcru?
Indeed, brother, we're quite worried about this trend. And you remember that just last year, the SAPS announced that between July and September, there were 22 police officers killed on and off duty. Now, since September last year up until now, there have been numerous other cases where police officers have been attacked, and of course, police stations as well. We think one of the main reasons why this has been occurring is due to the fact that there's a high demand for firearms, and criminals see police officers as weak targets, and they have then started attacking them, including police stations as well. So we feel that something definitely needs to be done, because it's not a new debate, by the way. We have been engaged with the SAPS management around finding ways to deal with some of these occurrences. Yeah. And up to so far, we feel that nothing much has been done.
What can be done? I mean, every time the police minister and the police commissioner issue the crime stats, and when they come to this category of police killings, they have very strong words that they utter to the nation. You, as a trade union, for your members' protection, what do you think can be done?
Look, the first thing we would obviously want our members to do is to work in larger groups, but unfortunately we would know that the staff complement of the SAPS has been already declined. But as well, we are calling for a policing endeavor which will sit by the end of March, which will obviously involve all stakeholders, including the SAPS itself, wherein we would obviously find ways around which we look at the root causes, but as well as common solutions around getting around this challenge. We think that the SAPS should by now be having a plan, which is something we had also discussed with the previous National Police Commissioner to deal with police killings. But as well, we think that some of the legislative boundaries which protect police have not necessarily been effected. Some of the acts have been implemented in the 1970s, and we feel that we need to look into acts that would ensure that police are protected. In most cases, when police react, they are considered to be brutal. And of course, currently as it stands, most of our police officers do not know how to act, and whenever they're confronted with such horrendous acts wherein their lives are at jeopardy.
Yeah, you want killing of a police officer to be regarded as treasonous. I mean, is that possible? The law would have to change, I would guess.
Most definitely. That is why the minister needs to look into the legislative frameworks around those, because I think, the killing of police officers, of course, has got a lot of, it actually undermines the role of the state in ensuring that the safety and security for all citizens. So it is a threat to the state, definitely. That is why we say that it should be considered treasonous to the killing of police officers. And of course, I think looking at what is currently happening now, where there's an increase in these killings, is something that should definitely be taken seriously.
Yeah. Now, inside the police, each time I speak to a trade union that covers the police, I talk about other challenge. While the police officers are suffering from being targeted, they are also under a lot of pressure, especially when it comes to mental health. Mr. Mamabolo, do you as Popcru have a view about how the men and women in blue can be supported better?
Yeah, look, there are programs which have been identified within the SAPS, employee assistance programs. But however, when we engage with most members, they feel that they lack confidentiality. And you would know that for you to be promoted in the SAPS, you would have to go through certain mental tests. And the reason why they do not use these facilities or these services is because they feel that the confidentiality, and they are not always available. But as well, there are many other challenges which are underlying within the SAPS. One of those is the staff complement, which is on a decline, of course, and the other one is the uneven allocation of resources. You go to police stations within townships and rural areas, you find that there's probably one vehicle which has to look after entire community. So there's a lot of stress in doing the work that members are expected to do in real time.
Yeah, and when a fellow officer has been murdered, it also puts a lot of pressure in the system. Do you believe the SAPS is giving enough support to the widows of the officers who've been killed?
The first thing we think should be looked into is the danger allowance, which has been at 400 since 2001. But as well, we feel that there should be a danger insurance, which will ensure that even beyond these men and women in blue passing away, whether in the line of duty or not, their families are sustained. At the moment, we think that much should be done in improving conditions of widows and orphan kids.
This danger allowance is 400 Rand per month.
It's still selling at 400 by now. When we signed that agreement through the SSBC, the bargaining council, we had expected that it would increase on a yearly basis. And if it had been increasing since 2001, it should be now standing at around 1,500 rands.
Yeah, and finally, Mr. Mamabolo, you've made a very important point. You say you believe that the police are being targeted because they are seen as soft targets from whom criminals can get their guns.
That is true, and in fact, the situation has been exacerbated by the fact that there's currently load shedding. In some areas, you find that police stations even close around 8 o'clock at night because of the fear for their safety. That is why we are saying that the staff complements within police stations is so limited that it becomes easy for criminals to actually attack these stations. And of course, with regards to the resources that they have, you would find that there are 2 police officers patrolling in large areas. So it becomes quite easy for criminals to actually target them.
Okay. Finally, what are you going to do as Popcru to push for the killing of a police officer to be regarded as treason in law?
Look, we are currently engaged with the SAPS management, but again, like I said, we are calling on a policing endeavor that will also look into all the causal factors and what we think should be the best way forward. And this, of course, should involve the role that communities need to play, because outside of communities playing a more significant role, police alone cannot deal with the challenge of crime in the country.
Thank you very much. Richard Mamabolo speaking on behalf of trade union Popcru about the ongoing killing of police officers. They believe the law should be changed to regard any murder of a police officer on duty or off duty as treason.